Okay, this is great. Now it's on the.
All this technology. Okay, Open Broadcaster fucked us again. So thanks, Open Broadcaster, for forgetting the audio multiple days in a row. God, will I reread the poem? I have it on the recording. I could play it back tomorrow. Fuck it. You get a different. I don't know that you get the same poem. I don't think we can reread it. Shit. All right. Maybe we'll go back to that one. I don't know. It's all right. Thank you, chat, for telling me about the sound. Thank you, Open Broadcaster. Large sync problem, too. Okay, well, that's something else. The sync problem is someone else. The sound problem, that's me. But technically, Open Broadcaster was set to the road, the correct one. This video focus too. It was set to the correct one. But what I had to do is I had to change it and then change it back. It's a very intuitive program to work with. But yeah, it was my bad. I couldn't see the little things moving, so I should have. But I could hear myself because I could see myself moving on the other board, but I couldn't see it on the Open Broadcaster board. So I was doing a really dramatic reading from Charles Bukowski. Love is a Dog from Hell. That should be called More Poems. Before I go back maybe to that one, although I don't know if I can really get back to it, it says, For Al, don't worry about rejections, pard. I've been rejected before. Sometimes you make a mistake, taking the wrong poem. More often, I make the mistake, writing it. But I like a mount in every race, even though the man who puts up the morning line tabs it 30-1. I get to thinking about death more and more. Senility, crutches, armchairs, writing purple poetry with a dripping pen. With the young girls with mouths like barracudas, bodies like lemon trees, bodies like clouds, bodies like flashes of lightning, stop knocking on my door. Don't worry about rejections, pard. I have smoked 25 cigarettes tonight, and you know about the beer. The phone has only rung once. Wrong number. So there we go. So that gets us a little back on track. I don't know if we can do this creative writing one again. Maybe I'll play back the tape tomorrow because I do have it on tape. It's aggravating. Oh, fine. I'll give you this one then. I wasn't sure if I was. And again, these are Charles Bukowski. He's a writer from the 60s and 70s, and 80s, 90s. These are his words before you go all PC on me. We can enjoy poetry still, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if we can still enjoy poetry, but let's try to enjoy just a little bit more poetry while I'm sure you guys are getting ready with the like button and the shares and getting ready to make some phone calls, because here we go. A good one. I get too many phone calls. They seek the creature out. They shouldn't. I never phoned Newt Hampson or Ernie or Celine. I never phoned Challenger. I never phoned Neruda. Tonight I got a call. Hello, you Charles Bukowski? Yes. Well, I got a house. Yes. A bordello. I understand. I've read your books. I've got a houseboat in Sausalito. All right. I want to give you my phone number. You ever come to San Francisco, I'll buy you a drink. Okay. Give me the number. I took it down. We run a class joint. We're after lawyers and state senators, upper-class citizens, muggers, pimps, the like. I'll phone you when I get up there. A lot of the girls read your books. They love you. Yeah? Yeah. We said goodbye. I liked that phone call. You know, a poem can be anything. I mean, we're putting too much pressure on poems, I think. But yeah, that's clearly a conversation turned into a poem. But I like it. I thought it was funny. Had a little twist at the end, right? Kept me interested. So check out Charles Bukowski, Love is a Dog from Hell. He doesn't care if you check it out. He's dead, but still publishing poems, new books, constantly coming out. There's just piles and piles of Charles Bukowski work around. So don't feel like you have to read it all, but I did. I liked it. But let's get it started today on the Thomas Hunt Show. Today is Thursday, March 26th, 2020, the month that will never end, in the year that I thought was going to be really nice, but didn't turn out that way. Checking out the price of Bitcoin is down 1.04% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 6,631, a high of 6,794, and a low of 6,578. That's $1 for 15,103 Satoshis, just above the 15,000 Satoshi barrier. Money printer, go! And the money printer's off. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is open and up 5.36% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 22,336 and 64 cents, jumping over a previous close of 21,200 as the market reacts to the $2 trillion stimulus plan that at news time here had passed the Senate and was going back over to the House to be passed again. That's not how bills are supposed to work, but I suppose that's how they're working today. There was a little hiccup last night when Senator Bernie Sanders threatened to block the bill after Republicans threatened to edit the bill, trying to make sure that unemployed workers would not make more money unemployed than they would at their jobs. God forbid those bastards have an extra $300 a month, right? We'll probably play Bernie's speech later. He was pretty impassioned. These are people who gave themselves a $1 trillion tax cut and now a $2 trillion bailout package. Don't call it a bailout, though. Boeing, very upset, doesn't like the word bailout. Already said they're not going to be giving up any stock or any control, just using the government as a free money machine. The people, the small businesses will be getting loans. The big businesses will be getting free money. Maybe they'll pay it back later. We'll see. Also, the people can expect their checks in about 3 weeks. The businesses can contact the Secretary of Treasury directly. They've got his phone number. Here we go. Daily update of coronavirus cases worldwide, starting out at 452,000. Here's the big refresh. 499,952, just below the 500,000 mark. We continue to climb. Deaths, 22,327 deaths. Coronavirus, let's see, active cases, up, total cases. Looking at active cases, let's see, I think total is what we're looking at here. So 471, now we have 499 going back. Let's see if we can find the 250. 250 on around March 19th. So that would be doubling every 7 days, which was also our previous double. So if we look previously, March 19th, pulling back to around 125. We see March 11th. So 8 days to 7 days. It seems to be slightly accelerating. And as we can see from the chart, going straight up. This is the middle straight part of the S curve, straight and then up and hopefully someday to the right. We haven't seen it yet. Stay the fuck home. If you stay home, you stop yourself from spreading the disease. I saw something recently that you should just assume that you have the disease, right? You should be going around with the assumption that you have it and you don't want to spread it. That's why you wear a mask when you go outside. That's why you keep gloves on. That's why you stay home. If you go out, this thing spreads at an exponential ratio. So instead of just going, 12 people in your office, this thing could go 3, all the way up to maybe even 59,000 people spread by a single person. So let's not be that person. Let's be the person that stays home. Hopefully you stocked up on food and you're doing good. We're just starting this thing up, though. We got a lot more time to stay home. Wear a effing mask. If you're going to go outside, wear a mask. If you don't have a mask, make a mask, get a scarf, wear something. Less microbes in your mouth. It's not perfect, but we could have less. There's lots of research showing that it works, and there's lots of instructions on how to make your own mask on the internet. Like this show. Thanks to everybody for liking this show. I'm going to self-like it. We've got 13 likes, and I don't know how many viewers. 26 viewers. That's pretty cool. So thanks so much for liking and watching this show. Can't quite get it on the screen right, but we'll get it on the screen soon enough. Checking out coronavirus cases in the United States. Here we go. Big refresh. Coronavirus cases in the United States up to 74,399. Yow. Why won't this thing go away? Go away. That's 74,399 cases in the United States, approaching the 100,000 cases in the United States level, and 1,000 deaths in the United States. So we're getting very close to the 100,000 infected level. Most of these new cases came from New York, where they're having a major outbreak. 4,292 cases reported just in the last 24 hours in New York alone. For comparison, that's as many cases almost as New Jersey has total reported in New York alone in the last 24 hours. According to the chart right here, New York has 37,258 cases right now, likely mostly in New York City, a heavily dense and populated area. This is the COVID virus. Bitcoin hash rate drops almost 45% since 2020 peak. The Bitcoin network hash rate has taken a steep plummet and is now down almost 45% from its 2020 peak. Fortunately, there is a difficulty readjustment coming up, I believe, today, where it will go back to around a block every 10 minutes. However, we haven't seen a large hash rate drop like this in a long, long time. And as the article warns you, it may affect the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin price facing new death cross, suggests no 10K Bitcoin before May. More price predictions as Bitcoin prices rebounded, but now seems stuck in a range between 6,000 and 8,000, with less than 50 days before the halvening. CoinDesk agrees, says that Bitcoin is range-bound trading as equity markets fail to see stimulus boost. However, we did see a 5% jump today on the hopes that the stimulus bill will actually be passed, and the obviousness that the stimulus bill is pretty much entirely for Wall Street. Not good. Bitcoin dominance to rise above 90%. No demand for alts. Ooh. Checking out yesterday's news. Of course, remember, this is a call-in show if you'd like to call. Right now, let's get the graphic up. We've got 18 likes. Thanks so much to everybody for liking this show, checking it out. Oh, that's weird. That's the Zoom video now. So weird. Oh, well. Anyway, we've got it all going on. All kinds of graphic on the screens here. 18 likes. You can call us now at 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network. All one word. Going to go ahead and throw that into the chat. Checking out the chat today. What's been going on? Say hello. Say where you're from. Welcome yourself into the chat. Everybody's got a cup of tea, and we're all psyched for another exciting morning of COVID virus and reading the news, yes? Let's see. Norm says USA to #1 in the world tomorrow. Unfortunately, it's not about sports or anything good. It's about the virus. Sergius says, hello, BTC Church. And Norm's got a bat and maybe some ramen. That looks good. No voice. I had some silent reading. That was fun. Oh, well. I turned it back on. Open Broadcaster is doing one of those fun things where it says it's connected to the right thing, but then it doesn't actually work. So Chaotic Crypto is into Bukowski. Check it out. There's a lot of Bukowski poetry out there and some short stories, a couple of longer stories as well. Even a movie called Barfly, if you're not into the whole reading thing. Mickey Rourke plays a very drunk Charles Bukowski fighting with everyone, and Faye Dunaway's in it too. So not a bad little picture, little grimy. To all my friends, to all my friends. Shout out to Lauren. Hello to AR in the chat. AN says, but when Moon, the more you test, the more you get, says Cab. True that. China has 81,000. Can we beat them? I think the U.S. can beat them. 13,500 more cases reported today for the U.S. Impressive. Way to go. Let's see. Ooh, large chat screen. Ooh, how about that? Norm says, Niall Ferguson reckons up to half the UK population could be infected. Yow. He's the government's leading epidemiologist. So I would stay home. Half infected. Let's stay home. Forget this nonsense, right? I don't need to go outside. Welcome to BTC from the Netherlands. AR's got some coffee. Beans from Kenya. Welcome to Chaotic in Atlanta. Norm's in crypto. And AR was just checking out some Coolidge, Samuel Taylor Coolidge poems via Iron Maiden. And Jennifer's going on a walk. So we're checking it out. Of course, we kind of already went through the great Bitcoin news today, or what little there was. There hasn't been a lot of big announcements. A lot of startups are not working on anything. Coleridge, yeah, I said it was spelled wrong, so I said it wrong. But Samuel Taylor Coleridge, right? It was in Finding Forrester. That's a good movie. But checking it out, it's been about 19 hours on Twitter, and I think a lot of things have been happening. Late last night, the stock futures tumbled into the close as Bernie Sanders threatened to put a hold on the coronavirus bill because the Republicans were threatening to pay the workers less. They were afraid that the workers could be paid a little bit more, so they had to stop that. Here's Bernie Sanders telling them he's not going to stand for it.
I find that some of my Republican colleagues are very distressed. They're very upset that somebody who's making $10, $12 an hour might end up with a paycheck for 4 months more than they received last week. Oh my God, the universe is collapsing. Imagine that. Somebody who's making $12 an hour, now like the rest of us, faces an unprecedented economic crisis with the $600 on top of their regular unemployment check, might be making a few bucks more for 4 months. Oh my word, will the universe survive? How absurd and wrong is that? What kind of value system is that? Meanwhile, these very same folks had no problem a couple of years ago voting for $1 trillion in tax breaks for billionaires and large profitable corporations. Not a problem. But when it comes to low-income workers in the midst of a terrible crisis, maybe some of them earning or having more money than they previously made, oh my word, we got to strip that out. Got to tell those poor people that no matter what. And by the way, when the McConnell bill first came up, unbelievably, and I know many Republicans objected to this, they were saying that, well, we want to give whatever it was, $1,000 or $1,200, but poor people should get less. You see, because poor people are down here, they don't deserve, they don't eat, they don't pay rent, they don't go to the doctor, they're somehow inferior because they're poor, we're going to give them less. Well, that was addressed. Now everybody is going to get the $1,200. But some of my Republican friends still have not given up on the need to punish the poor and working people. You haven't raised the minimum wage in 10 years. Minimum wage should be at least $15 an hour. You haven't done that. You've cut program after program after program, and now, horror of horrors, for 4 months, workers might be earning a few bucks more than they otherwise went. Well, needless to say, this
Amazing rant there by Bernie Sanders, really going to it. I'm really surprised at the end to see this girl's phone screen. But yeah, that was wild. Bernie really going for it, really taking it down. Impressive stuff to see. He's right on, of course. They were trying to. It's just pennies. I mean, and it's just so petty, and it just looks so bad. So I think they're going to leave it in there. They're going to take the chance that these people might leave their jobs because they're making an extra $600. But the reality is their jobs might not be there anyway, so we may as well pay these people. What are they going to do? Spend it? Put it back in the economy? That sounds great. Here we are right here. Meltem Demours, not usually a very political person, taking on a major political statement here. Let's read what Meltem says. She says, "They're not even pretending anymore. They are paying BlackRock to bail out BlackRock, and they are patting themselves on the back. But hold on, it's going to take us at least 4 months to print your check and send you your check." They're claiming 3 weeks, but generally I agree with her. She is right. They are. The Secretary of Treasury is paying out his buddies directly. They can call him up directly if they need help, and they don't even want them to call it a bailout. Don't even call it a bailout. Shout out to Turter at Galia Class 149. He says, "I don't know who will see this. I worked 12 hours in the ER today. We incubated 5 patients. 4 people died. Seasoned nurses were found hiding and crying in storage rooms. I'm literally in a war zone, and the battle has only just begun. The front line is failing. You guys are on your own now." So it does sound very tough, just a single example, but what it might be like in a hospital right now. So we can imagine. As Mark McKinnon here, he's got the country by country coronavirus chart saying that the United States is now on pace to have the worst coronavirus anywhere. As Norm's been saying for a few days, we will be number one, and now we are number one. We have not the most cases in the world, but on a scale of number of days since the 100th case, the United States has reached 20 days since our 100th case and have reached a massive level. It says here 50,000. We've even seen this morning 75,000 infected. So we are above. We are a lot closer to doubling every 2 days than doubling every 3 or even every week like we'd like to. Looking at Hong Kong, why are they so low? School closures, quarantine, community response. Why is Singapore so low? They have a strict quarantine rules and contact tracing. Why is Japan so low? Strong social norms around obedience and mask wearing. South Korea, we can really see flattening out the curve. A huge test and trace program got on top of the outbreak. Why is the U.S. so high? We're not doing any of these things, at least on the scale that these countries did them. We're not seeing the curve flatten out. Jeremy Howard writes, "This is one of the most amazing and hopeful things I've read. How the Czech Republic, through community effort, got to 100% mask usage in 10 days, nearly all through home do-it-yourself effort. They've only had 2 deaths and have had no growth in daily new coronavirus cases. And as you can see here, even the guy who's making the mask is wearing a mask. This just makes sense. We need to be making more masks. It's very disappointing. They haven't been talking about this on the news. The masks are more effective than nothing. It's not an N95 mask that you're making right there, certainly, but it's more effective than nothing, and we haven't been doing anything. So telling people about this, telling people that you can make your own mask, that you can make masks for other people, as we see right here, people are sewing them and just sewing and sewing. You can be involved in this. You don't just have to watch it on TV. Checking out the next story, the juxtaposition is too uncanny. Here on the top, Farad Manju says, "A refrigerated truck has been stationed outside to hold the bodies of the dead. Over the past 24 hours, New York City's public hospital system said in a statement, 13 people at Elmhurst had died. It's apocalyptic," said Dr. Bray, a general medicine resident at the hospital. Then we've got a tweet from Jim Kramer. "You want to know what's really out there? Cheesecake apparently just told its landlords it can't pay the rent. So many darn landmines out there in right land. And it is funny to see the difference between people who are having trouble with their system. They're overwhelmed with dead bodies versus someone else who's worried about the Cheesecake Factory and they're not paying their rent. The focus on business in the middle of this crisis is really overwhelming. There's some great tweets coming up from Balaji where he really nails this and explains it. But I'm going to wait and I'm going to use his words because they were better. Check it out. We had an interesting story from @SageBoggs. This has really gone wild on the internet. This is another viral story. He was baffled. He wanted to know why Triscuits were named Triscuit. He wrote the Triscuit company, even saying that he thinks it's try in Triscuit, maybe eating 3 layers of wheat or something like that. He wrote the company. The company said they didn't know. This is another example of a social media person just, taking it for granted, just being a part of the chain of command, right? And so he kept searching. He found this classic advertisement of Triscuit, the electric-baked biscuit, and that Triscuit was baked by electricity. Triscuit is the newest and perhaps the best creation of the Natural Food Company of Niagara Falls, New York, makers also of the celebrated wheat biscuits. Triscuits are to be eaten with cream, fruit juices, as toast with eggs, and 1,001 other ways, each of which is fully and comprehensively explained in the neat little booklet which accompanies each package of genuine Triscuits. Triscuit is baked by electricity, the only food on the market prepared by this 1903 process. In neat packages, each 15 cents. If you buy 2, they cost 25 cents. So a great little story about Triscuits baked by electricity. The tri comes from electricity. So there you go. The internet learned something today and had a great time with it. About 1,000 retweets. And great for him to find out this story. Good job sleuthing it out, Sage Boggs. More bad news from the Trump team. They failed to follow the National Security Council's pandemic playbook. The 69-page document from 2016 provided a step-by-step list of priorities, including the stockpiling of hospital equipment and protective gear, which were then ignored by the administration. So we did have a plan. You've all seen it in the movies. You've seen The West Wing. They get out their big binders that the military or even another presidency has developed. And they say, well, what's in the binder? And the binder says, you're going to have trouble because you're going to run out of gloves. So you pick up the phone and you say, Defense Production Act, start making gloves. You put it back down. They say, you're going to run out of ventilators and masks. Again, you pick up the phone, you command the industries to work, you follow the steps in the book. I don't know what the steps in the book are, but they're way better than just sitting down at a meeting and trying to figure it out. People have thought about these things before. People came before you. We have institutional knowledge. It's passed down. They call it the deep state. Deep state or institutional knowledge, like a 69-page playbook that you go through when you have a pandemic. I'm sorry, they just didn't do the basic things, and this isn't good. So, as Balaji says, what if the multi-trillion-dollar bill doesn't work because it's not aimed at the actual upstream cause, namely the virus? And as Balaji says, here's what could have been in the bill, and this is a completely different universe where instead of focusing on the economy, we focus on killing the virus. Balaji's right on here. Some of this is a little off. Expanded right to try. I'm not big on that. That's people taking random medicine at home, hoping that it works. But if he thinks it's okay, I'm sure he could convince me. A universal basic mask. I like the sound of this, the idea that every American should have the right to a mask and that we should we haven't already, shockingly, again, we haven't not quite nationalized, but you get the gist. Convinced 3M, and that's what the Defense Production Act is for. That's what we did during World War II. I love quasi. We quasi-nationalized some of these businesses and said, hey, make us a bunch of masks. And guess what? You're getting paid at cost. No one's profiting off these masks today. Sorry. It's a crisis. So universal basic masks for everybody. I like that, especially nurses and such. hazard pay for doctors, nurses, grocery clerks, delivery workers, etc. I like this idea, hazard pay. Instead of just saying that we need to protect the workers who've lost their jobs, the restaurant workers, we say, what about the workers we're still currently depending on? The ones who probably don't have masks, probably don't have vacation or vacation time, can't even take it off if they get sick, and are out there right now restocking the shelves, dealing with the sick, healing people. How about we help those people out right away, right? That makes sense to me. Funds and prizes for tests, drugs, and vaccines. Again, focusing on the actual problem, trying to get people to develop things faster. Science, I'm sure they're working as fast as they can, but wouldn't be too bad to have some money on it as well. We could take care of these people afterwards. Maybe they go and develop new cures because they were so well funded after they developed this first cure. And finally, he says, allow governors to repeal laws obstructing any of the above. So yes, you would have the governors repeal laws. If they had a anti-right to try or some kind of no hazard pay law, they'd have to repeal it. So that seems fun. Stop the virus first is his focus and his thinking here. And Balaji could have been in there. He could have been on the inside of the Trump administration. I think he certainly tried. I remember when he deleted every tweet that he'd ever written, especially the ones about Bitcoin. Sad to see them go. But yeah, he cleaned out his profile. He was ready to be Health and Human Services Secretary, but it never materialized. Derek writes in with a great one. He says, turns out it is not the comma, but capitalism that is the difference between let's eat, Grandma, and let's eat, Grandma. Funny. Oh, bad news locally. The Nevada Health Response and the DHHS are reporting 10 known COVID deaths in the state of Nevada and 405 cases. So it is starting to actively spread, even here in Las Vegas, where I live. So I've been staying home for quite a while now, and I'm going to keep staying home. So that's my plan. Should be your plan too. At a New York hospital, 13 deaths in one day. Some died inside the emergency room waiting for a bed. A truck is stationed outside to hold corpses. Sick people are standing in line 7 hours to try and get tested. As one doctor said, it's apocalyptic. So, 13 deaths in a day at a New York hospital. Here we go, another little kind of a comedy, a little lighter story about the coronavirus. This is the closest we can get you to comedy today. But this is Mayor Gabe Brown from Boone County. And this is legit. This is the mayor, so I'm going to read his full response. We've had mayors run for president, all kinds of things. Mayors are the backbone of our society, right? So Mayor Gabe writes, listen up, dipshits and sensible people. I might not have the best bedside manner. I might not put you at ease like the governor does, but I don't care. You need to realize that this is a serious ordeal. In fact, it's a big fucking deal. Stay at home. I didn't give you information to induce panic. I gave you information so that you'd be informed. Maybe, just maybe, I'm privy to information that you aren't. I'm sorry for being the gossiping mayor. I'm tired of COVID-19 conference calls. I take 3 a day, plus 1 extra on the weekend with Kenton County. If you don't like what I'm telling you, then go buy some toilet paper. I pray every night that the state, county, and region that I love with all of my heart will stop doing nonsensical things. Treat this seriously. If you don't, then screw you. Fuck you is what I want to say, but I can't. This will pass. Take it seriously. It is here. Act like you have the virus and don't spread it to other people. I have no doubt that it's already been here, but testing has been limited. More cases are coming. If you ignore this problem, the worst thing that could happen is that your mother, father, grandfather, grandmother, aunts, and uncles could die. Be responsible. If you don't, then screw you. Warmest regards, Mayor Gabe Brown. And he's got a little follow-up. It has been brought to my attention that I may have, in fact, lost my shit. For that, I apologize. I probably could have handled all your comments with a little more tact and professionalism. Then again, some of you got told what you should have. Wash your hands, you filthy animals. Great stuff from Mayor Gabe Brown. Shout out to Robert McGuire on Twitter for sharing Jessica Hoosman's story with us. The chain of slightly humorous, keep you going stories in the COVID virus. There aren't many of them, so we have to appreciate them when they come along. I'd just like to ask everybody to give us a thumbs up and a share. If you haven't already, please subscribe down below. We try to do these shows every day, and we've done them for quite a while now. So subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. You can follow us on Twitter at MadBitcoins or at WorldCryptoNet. But yeah, you can also call in if you'd like, share your opinion or your story at 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going with the news, which isn't always good and is always political and so on and so forth. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
It's Arthur Pug calling you from Notting Hill, Thomas.
Hey, Arthur. How's it going? How are you guys dealing with the infection? I hear 50% of the UK may be infected.
Where did you hear that?
I heard it just the other day. The epidemiologist was saying it. He's saying that the infection may have spread during the herd immunity phase, and that it may be just much more widespread than people think. Let's see. I'll get the article right here. So it was 2 days ago.
Interesting. While you're looking that up, Thomas, I was just curious. You said you're staying home. Has Las Vegas opened up any of the golf courses or other kind of private green spaces for public access?
Not to my knowledge. I think the parks may still be open, just the normal, neighborhood parks, that kind of thing. But the general order that we have isn't as strict as California. We have a all non-essential businesses closed rule. I don't think that we officially have a shelter at home, although I think that's what people are suggested to do, and most people are doing. Especially with all of the gaming machines in the state shut down. It's still just an incredible silence. You can't even imagine there's no gambling going on anywhere right now, just as you think about it. But yeah, it's been relatively quiet. I don't know that much more because as much as it's tempting, I haven't been driving around. Too many horror movies start out with that. Where the zombies are in town and you're like, oh, let's leave our bunker and go drive around. Nothing will happen, and you get a flat tire. You have to fight a bunch of zombies. I mean, I just don't want that. So no, I've mainly been staying home. How is it where you live?
Well, we've just had 4 days of glorious sunshine, which, as I'm sure you're aware, is quite a rare event in the United Kingdom. So I live close to our largest park, which is called Hyde Park. It's sort of the scale of Central Park in New York. And that has been keeping me sane. I mean, there were some rumors going around the park today that because certain people were not keeping a proper distance, that they might close the park this weekend. I think that would be a bridge too far in large conurbations. The parks are absolutely vital to our kind of mental well-being.
Well, I know at first in the Italian situation, they did have people allowed to walk their dogs and allowed to go outside for exercise. But what they found, and maybe it's just the Italians are such a social people and so on and so forth, but they were walking their dogs too much. They were staying outside too much. They were taking this as an extended vacation, and therefore they weren't seeing the kind of flattening the curve results that you really get from staying home. I've been talking to a lot of people that we just cannot keep our parents at home. The older generation will not stay home. They won't take it seriously. A lot of people won't take this seriously. And the true horror is, to think about someone who's immune challenged, like Michael Casey, the CoinDesk writer. He's having to stay in his bedroom, basically. He can't have contact with his kids or his wife, certainly not with the outside world. And, that's the true horror. But the reality is, if we all stayed home in our bedrooms, we definitely wouldn't spread it. The more we go out, the more we spread it. So I don't know if the UK is going to crack down on the parks or not. Certainly a lot of people, that's the civil liberties line. We're getting close to the martial law, to the National Guard and all these kind of things. But, we want to beat this thing. We want to defeat this virus. We're going to have to stay home or we're going to spread more infections.
I did notice police cars patrolling the lanes within the park today who were megaphoning people to tell them to keep their dogs on leads, which was a new thing, and also not to sit around sunbathing. So that basically you should be in the park to take some restricted exercise and not just to lounge around and enjoy the sunshine. But without wanting to dwell on that too much, Thomas, I wondered if I'd have time to ask you a Bitcoin-related question.
Sure, go ahead.
I read somewhere, probably BTC, Reddit, or some unreliable source, that Jameson Lopp, who is quite an influential core developer, had suggested that the 21 million fixed supply of Bitcoin should be allowed to expand, I think with a view to remunerating miners in the future after several halvings and the like, and on the premise that they might not necessarily earn enough from transaction fees. Now, I've been to his website, his Medium articles, and his Twitter feed, and I can't find him as being quoted as saying this. But the 21 million is the single element that most attracts me to Bitcoin. Can you confirm or deny that that is his opinion, and what is your opinion?
Well, let's see. I'm looking for it a little bit more. There does seem to be some basic things. I think I'm finding a tweet, maybe an article or two, kind of some older articles. This is definitely something that was talked about a lot more in the old days before Bitcoin was really locked down. Remember, the official story that we have right now is that it wasn't even really Satoshi that locked Bitcoin at 21 million units. It was kind of left there as a limit, but later on, I think it was Blue Matt and some of the other people who said, well, we should really have this as a, like a variable. It should be locked. This shouldn't be a changeable thing. And it is possible in the code that it could be changed. Anything could be changed. I mean, Bitcoin could be changed into Dogecoin if the miners agree and the coders agree and then the users agree. It would be difficult, but possible. So, yeah, I think they could change it. Right here I'm finding articles where Lopp is talking about the number of Bitcoin that were lost. He estimates, according to this article, 4 million Bitcoins permanently lost because the keys were destroyed or they're dead, so on and so forth. So I've seen a lot of people saying, well, if there's this many lost, we could print this many new ones. I think it's mainly just something people discussing. I don't know that there's officially a plan or something that's been started to do that. But I mean, it's something in the code. Like, a lot of people are very serious about it and 100% into it, and it backs up their investment thesis. And another thing about Bitcoin is just that the code is very hard to change. That's part of the defense, is that, you'd have to go through all these steps, and the miners would have to accept it and the users would have to accept it. So I don't think we're going that way, but it is something that could be discussed or could be changed. We'd have to get Jameson on here to get his opinion, though.
Yes, and like I said, I couldn't actually find any quote anywhere from him to that effect. But I don't see why over time, clearly it's an issue of the Lightning Network, and the cheap fees remained. But even the Lightning Network fees can't remain as low as they are at the moment indefinitely. So I don't see why miners can't make a sufficient living off the transaction fees in the future.
I think they could. It's also possible that someone like Amazon or another big player will continue to mine the Bitcoin network because it's in their interest that they can continue to use this free agnostic payment system. They just have to put in a little bit of upkeep later on as we reach the end of the line, the point where there'll be no more Bitcoins, which again is in like 2130 or something. So we're not really worried about it right now. However, I think that making a change to the ledger is easier now than it would be in the future. And it was certainly easier, 3 years ago, and it was easier 3 years before that. And, the longer Bitcoin goes on, the harder it is to get new code ideas, large changes made to the ledger, which is, again, part of the value, part of the strength.
Well, thanks, Thomas. And warmest wishes to everybody out there. I'll talk to you again sometime soon, I hope.
Thanks so much for the call. Give us a call anytime. And hope to visit you in the UK soon, but nobody's going anywhere right now. Thanks so much, Arthur. And if you wanted to check it out, they do have this model. This is just a theoretical model. So let's hold back a little bit on the 50% UK infected. Let's say more like, according to an Oxford model, the coronavirus may have already infected half of the UK population. So it came out a couple of days ago. I think they're just mainly based upon the UK's relationship with the world, all of the travelers moving through there and in and out of there, kind of a gateway to Europe. The same thing was said about New York and New York City yesterday, that this is something that New York is proud of. They have international people. They have people who take meetings in Italy or China, all over the world, and then they come home. They have a mixing pot of people. So in that way, they are susceptible to this. But they also see that diversity and that spirit as one of their strengths. So I support them as well. Thanks to Arthur for the call. If you'd like to call us, you can call us now at 1-518-600-1949 or on World Crypto Network, all one word, on Skype. If you're international, you want to use the phone number, just dial 001. Local rates may apply. I don't know anything about phone calls anymore. But you used to be able to call collect, and you could do all kinds of things, but probably not anymore. Going back to the news, just going to keep working our way through this. B-Boy Booley Bays writes, I'm sorry to keep doing this, but in World War Z, the book, which if you haven't read it, is a fantastic book. I'm going to stop the tweet for a second. It's an oral history, so it's a series of interviews. So if you're someone like me who's read a lot of oral histories, there's one behind me of Saturday Night Live right now, and there's a Daily Show one over there too I really want to read. But it reads true because it's interviews. It's people going back and telling you about the zombie invasion and what they did and so on and so forth. So it just reads as a very historical, true book. It's not just a story. It reads as a history of the zombie war. I haven't seen the movie, but I love the book. I think it's fantastic. It's also interesting story, interesting side note. It's written by Mel Brooks' son, Max Brooks, who was actually in a COVID virus video that we played a few days ago. So everything is connected. Pretty cool. But he says in World War Z, the book, there's a whole section about disease and risk experts, that they saw the high potential for a global pandemic, wrote a detailed report on how to stop it, and handed it to the U.S. administration only for them to ignore it. So it is pretty horrifying to see the book repeated in real life. As we now know, there's this 69-page National Security Council document, a pandemic response playbook, administration history, knowledge, institutional knowledge, that was handed down to these people that they ignored and didn't use, just like in the book. Check it out. So far, Germany's fatality rate for coronavirus, 0.5, is the lowest in the world by a long shot. Experts say that's because they're testing early and often. One virologist estimates the country has been testing around 120,000 people a week. So we're looking for who's doing it right, besides South Korea, Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, maybe China. Germany is doing it right. So there you go. This article from The Guardian writes, COVID-19 is nature's wake-up call to complacent civilization. He writes, we have been living in a bubble of false comfort and denial. In the rich nations, we have begun to believe that we have transcended the material world. And it looks like we're going to be proven wrong on that one. As Larry Saliba writes, masks work. Here's 34 scientific papers that all point to the same thing. Masks, even homemade ones, really work to dramatically reduce the spread of COVID-19. So get a mask, wear a mask if you have to go outside. Workers at a New York hospital where nurses wear trash bags as protection dies. So nurses don't have protective gear. They're wearing trash bags in the United States of America, and one of them died because of his exposure to a patient. This is not acceptable. This is preventable. This is organization. This is competence. And this is not what we're seeing from our government. NBC News insider, they're starting to worry about airing Trump's daily press conferences because he keeps repeating lies and falsehoods. As the insider said, you handle the president like you handle the virus. He has to be contained and quarantined, and his falsehoods have to be scrubbed off so that they don't rub off on you. They say that Trump's pandemic briefings have devolved into an open mic night full of misinformation. Pretty bad. Oh, Harley writes, did you see Americans are getting a one-time $1,200 check to cover COVID unemployment? Because Canada just announced $2,000 a month for the next 4 months. So one of these things is not like the other. A larger basic income to cover the American people during this time period would be more successful. This one really only gives you one more month to clean out your apartment because you're getting evicted, whereas a multi-month plan would be much better. We've been waiting for this. This is not good news, but we did predict we would be in real trouble if they can't make the new iPhone, and the Apple shares have started to tank as the report says the new iPhone launch could be moved to next year. So we're talking about a three-month delay, moving it from the winter quarter to the new quarter of, I guess we're talking about January 2021 at this point. But they think they're holding it back because it's the first 5G iPhone. They really need it to be a success. They can't take any chances if they don't get 5G into the people. People might just avoid 5G, buy cheaper phones, cheaper phone plans. Maybe they don't need gigabyte speeds out in the world, but they certainly want to sell you a phone plan that has a data limit that now you have gigabyte speeds to hit your data limit. So this is big economic news. This could be big news for FANG, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, the tech stocks that lead the NASDAQ. If other companies have to start pulling back products. This is just like the entertainment world. The business world works on product announcements. You have a new movie announcement. If you have to move the new movie back, if you can't have the new movie, what are we buying the company for? Advice from astronauts who are in space. They say that you should become experts on the thing that is threatening you. Impressive advice from people who have no choice but to live with other people. They can't go anywhere. And in a lot of ways, they're probably safer up there as long as they don't invite anyone else or anything in. In a lot of ways, a successful quarantine like we're under right now, if you're trying to stay home, is a lot like being an astronaut. You don't open the door and go outside. You don't spend a lot of time walking around. You have your existing food supply. You have your entertainment for the day. You try to do something productive, try to get a little exercise, try to do something good. Maybe if you can work from home, that'd be great. But yep. And then just do it again the next day. Don't go outside. If these people go outside, they would die instantly. So think more about that. The Trump campaign just released a cease and desist letter demanding that TV stations everywhere pull this Priorities USA advertisement. So, of course, we're going to take a look at it. I've already seen the ad. I think it's crushing. It's a very strong political ad. Let's see if we can get back to the beginning and if Twitter video will let us go full screen.
The coronavirus. This is their new hoax.
We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China.
One day it's like a miracle, it will disappear.
When you have 15 people, and within a couple of days it's going to be down to close to zero, we really think we've done a great job in keeping it down to a minimum.
I like this stuff. I really get it. People are surprised that I understand it.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
Priorities USA Action is responsible for the content of this ad.
Ooh, that was a pretty good 30-second ad. And there's going to be a lot more of these. The impressive use of the chart in the background, the creepy red Trump graphic. Obviously, this is an advertisement. And we're going to understand and discuss it through the frame of advertising. But, whoa, that's a good ad. I would not want that put up against me. So you can find it all you want. I don't know what's fake news about that ad, man. I mean, I agree. It's an advertisement. It's propagandist. I mean, it's an advertisement. I mean, we're going to go through this, but no, I think the juxtaposition of the chart and the scary face, the creepy quotes, was pretty strong. So I read this whole article this morning. They kept teasing me about Kanye's design for a perfect hoodie. Definitely more interested in Kanye West than I used to be. He's very busy. He's doing a lot of things. He's a multidisciplinary artist. And even though I've never been into his music or anything, he seems like a fascinating guy. So he was attempting to make the perfect hoodie. He got sidetracked, ended up making the perfect vest for a while. He's got his whole church thing going, his clothing lines, the fashion. I mean, he really interesting article. I definitely would check it out from the Wall Street Journal. David Wallace Wells, author of the book Uninhabitable Earth, writes, "This is a conviction that serves power, of course, since it's a defense of the status quo, but also one which suggests we may have learned the wrong lesson from World War II Britain, whose most important lesson was not keep calm and carry on, but win the war however you can." And it's an interesting side note that the Keep Calm and Carry On poster was never produced during World War II. It was never distributed. While it may have been a nice, quick phrase for the general British attitude that they were keeping calm and carry on, that, the Churchillian spirit that became them, in reality, I agree with what Wallace Wells is saying here, that the real lesson is win the war however you can. Churchill was willing to do anything to win the war. Churchill was not limited in his toolbox. If he had something like the Defense Production Act, he would use it. I mean, we used it in America. That's what we made it for, is for wartime production. Crisis. You use the tools you have. Sometimes you don't. We've got more from Balaji. It's a big one. Balaji writes, founder of 21.co and earn.com, classic.com startup guy. The American de-evolution may be coming. State boundaries are becoming real. Governors are taking stances at odds with the federal government. An acceleration of everything that's happened with sanctuary cities, cannabis laws, open carry. It may not be so easy to travel between states soon. So it is an interesting idea. As Trump was saying with his plan to reopen the country, a lot of that seemed to depend on state boundaries and borders, which, as we all know, are completely porous. We don't have militarized borders here in the United States, especially state to state. We do have them on the Canadian-Mexican border now, heavily militarized. But state to state, there's no real restriction. So if you have someone with the coronavirus in Nevada and they go to California and they infect 50 people, you've got another little outbreak. You have another wave. How many times will this happen before California says, hey, no more random people from Nevada? You have to go through a screening. You have to be temperature checked. And that's going to really affect interstate commerce, the ability of trucks to drive from state to state to state without stopping. We really don't have the kind of border system that I think he thinks we have, or we're not as distributed and separated. Part of his defense for opening the country seemed to be based upon a Midwest idea that we're all spread out, which is true in the West, in the middle, but not so much in the big cities. And also the idea that we just stay in the city. A lot of people from New York come to California on business and vice versa. Florida, tourism, travel, DC, people move. People don't just stay home. So I don't know about this reopening plan unless you're really going to ramp up state-to-state borders, which is a whole another thing. Bully at Bully Esquire writes, and yet we're supposed to keep paying our student loans. We're supposed to keep paying our mortgages. We're supposed to keep paying our taxes. Look around. It's starting to seem like the people who play by the rules are always the ones who end up last in line. And again, this is like the Bloomberg article said a couple of days ago, these crises, these viruses, these pandemics also end up playing into a political role. They went back and they looked. The crises of the 20s and 30s were perhaps caused by the epidemics of the 1880s and 90s, which exposed a weak system. They exposed a system that was not caring for and taking care of its people. So, of course, the people then rebelled and got upset on the outside and maybe altered the system, maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. Maybe that's going to happen again. So I'd keep an eye on this feeling that he's expressing there. Shout out to Almond Tits. She writes, April Fools is canceled this year because shit ain't funny. Damn right. Interesting story coming out of Maine and the Pacific Northeast. The right is using COVID-19 to wage war on reusable grocery bags. Conservative interests are teaming up to bring back the plastic bag, using scientifically questionable claims that reusable bags spread coronavirus. So once again, the word crisis is also the same word as opportunity, right? If you've got something to sell, you just change it to the current environment and you sell it. I watched some new TV yesterday as opposed to pre-recorded, and those darn news networks that I keep watching. I watched a little of the replays of the Winter Classic, the hockey game that they play outside. Sometimes it snows. Fun, right? So I watched some replays of that. Of course, it didn't matter who won or whatever, but it was fun to watch. And I noticed that the commercials have changed. The old commercials are gone. They're out of the thing. There's no more movie ads. There's no more show ads. Where I live, there's no more casino ads. And the big change is that Subway wasn't saying, stop by your local Subway, come on in. They were saying delivery or pickup. They were saying we've got free delivery or pickup. Red Lobster wasn't advertising their fancy dining restaurant. They were saying that you could get Red Lobster to go. So congratulations to the advertising people. They really did some fast turnaround on these new advertisements. There was even a car commercial that said it was Hyundai, I think, and they said they had special insurance in case you lose your job from coronavirus. You could keep paying for the car that you should run out and buy right now. So shout out Madison Avenue, getting it done in a crisis. Somebody's working overtime, making a new set of advertisements for our new world. So if you watch some TV, check out the new ads. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did you see any big changes? Is there anything that you used to see ads for all the time but don't anymore? And we predicted this. A lot of other people predicted this. It's been really frustrating to watch this all happen in slow motion, but job vacancies and inexperience mar the federal response to coronavirus. Unfilled jobs and high turnover means that the government is ill-equipped for a public health crisis, said many former and current federal officials. For those of you who haven't been paying attention to politics, the new Trump administration wasn't really ready to win. It was kind of a surprise to them. and they didn't really have a good list of people to fill all of the positions in the government. They're also a very ideological bunch. They only want people that support their side. Maybe they couldn't find enough of those people. Maybe they could not find enough talented people. But for whatever reason, a lot of the desks at our federal government that should be doing something are doing nothing because nobody sits there. They just haven't hired everyone. So you might be saying, I don't like the government. This is great. But in reality, the thing doesn't work if you don't hire everyone. It's kind of like you intentionally kneecapped yourself and now you can't run a race. You're the one who hit yourself in the knee. It's not a great scene. So we're keeping an eye on this. Not surprising, nor is the response to this crisis, the failure, surprising. Everyone predicted this. They all thought it would happen. But now to see the actual reality of infections and potential deaths, it's just rough, man. It's just rough. Switching back to technology news for just a minute, the source code for the Xbox Series X, that's that weird tower thing you see right there, reportedly has been stolen and is being held for $100 million ransom. I'll bet they want Bitcoin or maybe Monero these days. Who knows? Some kind of privacy coin. But funny to think about that. Yeah, the source code for the Xbox has been stolen, and can't really trust pirates, can you? Poor Microsoft. What a bummer. Because obviously, if you pay them, they'll release it anyway. And if you don't pay them, they'll definitely release it. Either way, having the source code leak like this could lead to people cracking it, making it so their DRM doesn't work, so they can't control their game libraries. I guess this one still has a disk slot. That's what that is there. Otherwise, there was rumors of them going with a completely cartridgeless or completely diskless system. But I presume if there's a hacked version of the Xbox firmware that comes out, it'll be based on this source code leak. So gotta hold on to your things. Kilgore Trout writes, our courageous premier has decreed most glorious beet harvest must resume. And let's see what the Orange Man said. He said, the lamestream media is the dominant force in trying to get me to keep our country closed as long as possible in the hope that it will be detrimental to my election success. The real people want to get back to work ASAP. We will be stronger than ever before. So there you go. He's created an enemy. A lot of people wrote articles about this. They said, how is he going to react to the virus? The virus isn't an enemy. It doesn't have a face. It doesn't make comments. You can't say that it's unpatriotic or disloyal. How is this man who needs an enemy? He lives an enemy life. How is he going to do it? Well, it turns out it's not the doctors and it's not the virus, which again, this is the best virus we've ever seen. This is one of the world's greatest viruses ever. And it's not those things that are keeping you home. It's the media. Your enemy is the media. Which again, this has echoes of the 1930s. Maybe you guys didn't read very much about what he said, but gosh, they said a lot of the same things. Let's just keep going, though. Last week, Trump said that the ultimate worst outcome would be unemployment. Now we've got 3.2 million unemployment, so it did happen. This is last week. So let's go back into the past when it wasn't a big problem.
An unprecedented rate, and your former economist said we could see some of the worst job numbers ever. Is the government prepared to see this spike in unemployment?
No, worst case scenario, you would have terrible job numbers. If we can get this thing wrapped up and finished earlier, things will go very nicely. And one of the things they're working, as you know, one of the elements that is being worked on very much so in the Hill is to keep the jobs going so that when we do get rid of the virus, we're going to be able to just really, I think, go like a rocket. I think the economy is going to be fantastic. Now, when he said that, he was using that as the ultimate bad outcome. I don't think anybody believes that's going to happen.
And here we are a week later. 3.2 million jobless claims, the largest unemployment numbers in American history. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's happening. It was a worst case scenario. So disappointing, right? Disappointing. Ken Olin writes, George Bush hesitated for 7 minutes on 9/11. It was his first year in office and he was with children. Donald Trump did nothing for 7 weeks when he was informed about COVID-19. It was his 4th year in office and he was with experts. Trump chose to ignore the threat. That's unforgivable. David Wallace Wells writes, the fact that essentially no Western country, aside from Germany, has even mounted a satisfactory response, and most have failed utterly, suggests that the problem is bigger and broader than our toddler narcissist president. I would agree with that. It is really only Germany, Singapore, South Korea, Hong Kong, maybe China, who have responded to this in a way that is effective. So there are going to be more of these pandemics. There are going to be more of these crises. Will we see other countries join Germany in being prepared and acting appropriately? We'll see. And we can't. This time's already gone. So we can look forward to next time and we can say, are we going to do the same things? If we have a 69-page plan, are we going to ignore the plan? I don't know. Got to look at this. Kramer on this morning on the CNBC Morning Bell said he continues to struggle with language spurred on by the Secretary of Treasury. He says, this is not a bailout of the airline industry. Boeing CEO stepped up a couple of days ago and said they would not be giving the American government, a.k.a. the American people, any stock in their company in exchange for bailing them out. Sorry, not bailing them out. In exchange for giving them money when they needed it. So, really patriotic, these people. Really like, rah, rah, rah. I can't wait to save the airline industry, who won't even acknowledge that we're saving them. Seems like a good idea. There's another funny story on CNBC. This guy said, I went looking for a PC a few weeks ago when I learned we might be working from home. You mean in a store? You went to a store to buy a computer? What year is this? Is your internet still working? The last guy still shopping retail on Earth is on TV, and he brought back a story. So, whoa, crazy stuff. Oh boy, here's a story to get mad about. I thought we were going to show the guy's cool background from CNBC, but I guess we're just going to show the story that makes people angry. A pallet of expired N95 respirators sat in a warehouse in Florida last week, the prize in a bidding war amongst several states. The winning bid, more than $26,000. That's $3.50 per respirator. A year earlier on the same site, these cost 25 cents each. That's right, states are bidding against each other, driving up the price because we don't have a national government. If we had a national government who could buy things, who could shut down profiteering auctions like this, who could acquire resources and then distribute them to the states, they wouldn't be bidding against each other. This is a pretty bad story, and let's get some more detail here from Bill Dedman at Bill Dedman, Dedman, on Twitter. Check him out. But what hasn't gotten attention is that some of the respirators the agencies have been bidding against each other to buy started out as government property. So these are expired respirators that the government sold that they're now buying back at an incredible marked up price. The bidders for the N95 respirators jousted over 3 days in a furious battle. A year ago on GovPlanet, a pallet of the 920 respirators sold for only $230, 25 cents a piece. The pace of online bids increased, sometimes 10 bids per minute. By afternoon, the West Coast had joined the party, as California's bidder number 6 jumped to $21,200. That was too steep for Delaware, which would just have to find its clean breath somewhere else. This evening, Ritchie Brothers and Government Planet removed all traces from their site of the N95 sales that I called to their attention. Those sales have disappeared. as though journalists don't know how to make screenshots. The company twice rejected the idea that it might donate any profits or commissions made on the run-up of prices on supplies to fight the pandemic. The company repeated that it is spending company time returning items to the military and considers that a donation. Respiratory ventilators were still being auctioned off today by GovPlanet. One in North Las Vegas sold for $1,175 on Tuesday. Another sold for $1,225. Their tags show they came from Brooke Army Medical Center at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. So once again, we're just seeing what happens when we don't have a national government, when we instead have 50 states competing with each other, literally bidding against each other. We can look at it right here. California, New Jersey, Delaware, competing to protect their citizens. It's pretty much a breakdown of the United States caused intentionally by a lack of leadership at the top. It's pretty surprising. As we said here on Twitter, profiteering on emergency gear during the crisis. There will be karma. Maybe it won't be instant karma that's going to get you, but there will be karma. There's right and there's wrong. There's plenty of ways to make money in a normal environment and to provide a service for people. Providing negative service, profiteering, is not a good look, not a good way to make money. Shout out to our favorite guy on CNBC. He edited his posters. He took some down, put others up. Maybe just a style choice. I hope he didn't get complaints because I sure like all these posters. He's got some sweet one here. Percy Sledge, Arthur Connolly, and looks like he's replaced him with a lot more Grateful Dead. So shout out to this guy. He seems to like rotating his framed 60s concert posters while he's telling us about the stocks on CNBC. So cool guy. Check that guy out. This is just, I don't know, it happens all the time. I'm sure it's no big deal. The military moves equipment by train across the country. There's an article in Popular Mechanics to tell us to chill the F out. But there's just some tanks on trains moving into Hollywood, moving into the Los Angeles area, moving by the Mexico border. I don't know. Just trains moving around, just tanks, no big deal. As Richard Feynman says, I'm smart enough to know that I'm dumb. And that's a good thing. That's the Dunning-Kruger effect tied up in one little sentence, right? Dumb people think they're the smartest people on earth. They can solve all problems. Smart people realize that there are people smarter than them, and maybe they should be a little humble. Shout out to Feynman. Great guy. It's just a bunch of tanks on trains moving to Los Angeles. Nothing to see here. And hopefully it is nothing. Hopefully it's just alarming looking and not actually alarming. We're talking about hydroxychloroquine. Pharmacists in Ohio are filling tons of prescriptions for this alleged miracle cure after President Trump mentioned them in a briefing. As Christian Vanderbroek says, the president and Fox News have caused hoarding of a potentially life-saving drug, all for the sake of a miracle cure talking point. I was hoping to have Will Pangman on here. Will's been disagreeing with me on Twitter. I keep inviting him, but he's busy. He's got things to do. But we're going back and forth on this. My basic thing is this is not how you roll out a cure, right? You roll out a cure by testing it. If it works, you mass produce it. Then you tell people that you have a cure. This isn't even really a cure like a vaccine. A vaccine would be a preventative medicine that you could give to people before they get the virus. This is a therapy. It helps people who already have the virus. It's a treatment. And it's also a treatment with not just this drug mixed together with like 4 other drugs. This isn't something you can just take at home. And that's why you don't announce it before it's been tested. We don't know what exact combination of these drugs. We don't know if it helps some people and hurts other people. For all we know, it could cause death in 30% of test subjects, but we haven't tested it, so we don't know. So I think there's just a proper way of going about things. When you skip the proper way, you try to skip ahead to the end. Again, even with the best of intentions, he wants to tell you good news. He wants to tell you good news. He ends up causing hoarding. He ends up making it impossible to test. And now we're actually in a worse position than if he had just said nothing. So certainly talk about it in your private meetings. Maybe the government should have started ordering some privately. Maybe they should have be boisterous in your meetings. I think we've got something. I mean, let's test it. Let's get a bunch of it. Let's see if it works. Don't just announce it. Announcing it doesn't do anything. Actually doing those things behind the scenes do things. So, I don't know. I think it's a big choice. I really think it's not a good deal for a talking point. I think we lost a lot. Even if it works or it doesn't work. We can't test it. We can't distribute it. I agree with Andrew Yang, former presidential candidate. He says, I wish more of this $2 trillion went to people. And that's right. We pretty much got taken for a ride. We'll find out more what's in the bill in the next couple days as they continue to edit it on the way to passing it. Another former presidential candidate, Elizabeth Warren, says, restarting our economy will require one thing above all else, testing. Testing to show who's currently infected. Testing to show who's had the virus and is immune. Social distancing won't end because it's Easter. It'll end when we have sufficient testing. Here's how to do it. Really great response from Warren. Nuts and bolts. Testing. The president didn't mention testing at all with his Easter Sunday opening plan. He didn't mention testing at all with his state-by-state regional lockdown plan. You've got to have the brass tacks. Got to have the details. And Elizabeth Warren, like her or not, always has the details. She always has a plan. As she says here, Congress is about to finish its third coronavirus package. It's not time for us to go home. It's time for us to dramatically increase coronavirus testing capacity. I've outlined the steps to move us forward toward this long overdue goal. And much like Balaji was saying, we've taken economic steps, we've passed stimulus, but we haven't taken medical steps. We haven't passed anything that will help the current problem. So not a great look unless man can live by economy alone. We don't even need virus protection. Another great tweet from Andreas Antonopoulos. Andreas writes, when you digest the sheer size of the 3 million unemployed who lost jobs this week, now remember they also lost their health care because it's tied to employment in the middle of a pandemic. And once again, just showing a structural failing in the American for-profit death care system is that if you lose your job, you lose your health care. This also limits your ability to choose new jobs. Maybe you want to try a new career. Maybe you want to take a risk. Maybe you want to take some time off and spend it with your kids. You lose your health care in all of those situations where it's not the same in Europe. It's not the same in the UK. It's not the same in Amsterdam. It's not the same in Italy. They have choices. They have universal health care. They can change jobs without losing their health insurance. They can have a crisis like a pandemic without losing their health insurance. This is revolutionary. Americans can't even understand this. They don't even realize that their lives make profits for these industries, that they're curing you for money, more money than it takes. So I don't know, it's not a good look. For-profit healthcare system gets really bad results if you do any kind of research at all. How much we pay for what we get, it's a bad deal. Restore Morality writes, I used to be a Trump supporter, and a pretty radical one at that. What changed my mind wasn't shaming. What changed my mind was just watching him speak. So I'd suggest that for all of you out there, just watch him speak. Just listen. Just think about it. Had an interesting story going on here. Saifedean Ammous, famous Bitcoin supporter, author of the Bitcoin Standard, seems to have very different views about the virus. According to Larry, he says, this is the thought leader you guys are listening to. He also doesn't believe in climate change and thinks that traffic lights are a bad idea. But let's take his own words. Oh, it's a giant tweet thing. How are you supposed to look at that? Let's see. Okay, here we go. Elena's writes, the question ultimately is, why do I have first-hand accounts from friends working in the healthcare industry in the UK and Spain that the systems, at least in Spain, are completely overwhelmed? Are my friends lying to me as part of a grand conspiracy too? And Safety had said, so many experts made apocalyptic projections of millions of deaths based upon the WHO-funded models R0. None of them have any idea how the number was made, as the clown who made it won't share it. None of them is even asking for it. Hysteria is the best antidote to clear thinking. And Safety responds to this guy's question about the first-hand accounts of the virus and says, there are a lot of other things other than an epidemic that can overwhelm a medical system. Quarantine taking up space and time. Panic causing many psychosomatic illnesses. Curfews disrupting operation. And so he says that it's panic causing psychosomatic illnesses. So all those people that can't breathe with a person stomping on their chest, and the people losing their sense of smell and taste, the NBA players, Tom Hanks, all these other people, it's psychosomatic, so it's fake. So then they say, care to provide data on how much the number of COVID-19 patients is larger than regular hospital loads this time of year? Of course not. It's just easier to be a snarking idiot, wasting people's time. So he does not believe that the hospitals are full. He doesn't seem to believe in the COVID-19 virus. He says that it's psychosomatic. So that's pretty weird. Let's see. I think there was one more tweet. Let's see. Here's a good one. The government thinking a one-time check of $1,200 is enough. How much could rent cost? $10? And let's see. Where's the other one with Safety? And here we go. They say this one, the Crypto Monk writes, Bitcoin maxi getting schooled, then running away. And they tried to provide him with data. They said he's living in Spain and knows many people working in hospitals. The situation is dramatic. It's not up to be debated. Paul says that you're speaking with an ideologue. No amount of reasoning will work. And Crypto Monk speculates that I guess they're just massively calling reserve doctors and nurses just for fun, which, of course, Safety blocked him. So there you go. That's how you deal with people who disagree. Block them. So not so sure about Safety and his response to this crisis. We'll see how it continues to go. If as the crisis intensifies, if he changes his mind, if he thinks the entire Chinese situation was a fraud or a put-up job, false flag, something like that. Not sure what he's up to there. Jeff Lewis writes, on March 3rd, I dined at the Four Seasons New York, and the maitre d' gently asked me to stop wiping my silverware and table down with Clorox wipes, fearing that I was alarming other patients. Today, the Four Seasons New York is a dormitory for medical staff. Ooh, cutting. Jeff was clearly ahead on this one. This is a great little Rodney Dangerfield kind of joke. He says, oh, my wife, she's a bad cook. I mean bad. They say the coronavirus can live on metal for 3 days. On her meatloaf, 10 minutes. Take my wife, please. I get no respect. No respect. He's not the take my wife guy, but hey, we made it to the headline of the show. We're getting close to the top. Oh, the news. It's going to end someday. I can't wait. More from Bully Esquire. He writes, today we bailed out airlines, charged you change fees, and did share buybacks for years. Boeing, 737 MAX, hi-oh! Hotels, Hilton announced a $2 billion stock buyback on March 3rd. That was the beginning of this month. Cruise lines avoided U.S. taxes and U.S. safety regulations by registering their vessels abroad. Good thing we bailed them out with no strings at all. That was a good plan. Happened so fast. and call into the show. Join the show. Here it is. This is the one I was supposed to clip out today, but I didn't get a chance yet. The Federal Reserve says there's no limits to printing cash.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
When it comes to lending, we're not going to run out of ammunition. That doesn't happen. Let's listen to Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell live on, looks like the Today Show.
Bullets. And to that point, are you sorry that you didn't raise interest rates a little more when the economy was strong so you'd have more cushion now?
When it comes to this lending, we're not going to run out of ammunition. That doesn't happen. We set the interest rates in time at what we think is the right, giving the economy the right level of support. If we'd raised interest rates more, it would have been higher than we thought, and economic growth would have been a little bit slower. So it wouldn't have mattered in the end. So we really are always setting our interest rates at the level we think is appropriate. And we've cut them to zero now. We still have policy room in other dimensions to support the economy. But the main thing we're doing now is really with our lending programs. That's the principal thing we're doing now to support the economy is through that channel.
All right, so the Federal Reserve has infinite ammunition. Infinite ammunition. Let's see, one more chance. Oh, I hate Twitter videos so much. It's so crashy. But yes, they have infinite ammunition. Nothing to worry about. Boy, Twitter, just stop offering video. I don't know.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
They're not going to run out of ammunition at the Federal Reserve. Don't panic. Popular Mechanics writes, the U.S. Army ships equipment on train on a regular basis. It does seem sinister, though, in the middle of a pandemic. So let's not worry so much about the tanks just yet. Suvash writes, that moment when the number of masks, 10 million, procured and donated by one of the most valuable companies in the world, Apple, is just a daily production quota for Taiwan. Another good proxy to grasp the not business as usual seriousness that Taiwan is operating at. And once again, if you do use the powers, use the tools in your toolbox, like the Defense Production Act in the United States, you can have a quota, a daily production quota, where you say, companies, do whatever you have to do to get us 10 million masks a day. Could you imagine in the United States 10 million masks a day or more being made at cost and distributed to the hospital workers, and then maybe to the rest homes, and then maybe just to everybody? Did you get a mask in the mail from the U.S.? I did, actually. It's a piece of paper. Here it is. It's President Trump's coronavirus guidelines for America. And as far as I can tell, this piece of paper was sent to everyone in America. This is a free mailer, so you get to send it out. It says, slow the spread, sent to postal customer. That's me. Let's see what it says to slow the spread. This is officially from the Trump administration. This is the only official communication I've ever received. Listen and follow the directions of your state and local authorities. If you feel sick, stay home. Do not go to work. If your children are sick, keep them at home. Contact your medical provider. If you are an older person or have serious underlying health condition, stay home and away from other people. If someone in your household has tested positive, keep the entire household at home. Ooh, I don't like that one. That's like get everybody sick. Work or study from home whenever possible. Avoid social gatherings in groups of more than 10 people. Avoid eating or drinking at bars and restaurants. Use pickup or delivery options. I don't like that one. The infection could come in right there. That doesn't make sense. Avoid discretionary travel, shopping trips, and social visits. There goes the economy. Do not visit, all caps, nursing homes or retirement or long-term care facilities unless to provide critical assistance. Always practice good hygiene. Wash your hands, especially after touching any frequently used item or surface. Avoid touching your face. Sneeze or cough into a tissue or the inside of your elbow. Disinfect frequently used items and surfaces as much as possible. And then in a big blue box, there's no red on this, by the way. If you really want someone to read something, you put it in red. It says, even if you are young or otherwise healthy, you are at risk, and your activities can increase the risk for others. It is critical that you do your part to slow the spread of the coronavirus. So I think it's actually a really good card. I think it's a really well-designed piece of information here. Coronavirus.gov. If you guys want more information, I figured they got similar information on there. Pretty straightforward. I mean, text a little small, a lot of information on there, but this is a tough time. But for a postcard, I mean, pretty good. So, and like I said, you can use it as a mask, right? It's right here. It's just like very effective American mask, mass produced. We could ship out tons of these. So I thought it was funny. Anyway, let's see. I think we got a couple more stories. Don't panic about the tanks. Just wear a mask. The G7 failed to agree on a statement after the United States insisting on calling the coronavirus outbreak Wuhan virus. So we could have united with 6 other countries and been on the same page, had an agreement, but we disagreed about the semantics. That's not great. Oh well, so much for all that. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Thomas Hunt Show. We had just a couple of phone calls, only the one from Arthur, really. But if you'd like to call now, we'll keep the show going. Maybe a couple more minutes, but only really if you call this second. So call now at 1-518-600-1949 or contact us on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. You could also call, leave a message for tomorrow, leave a comment on this video, and we'll check it out. Maybe we'll read some comments tomorrow. We've got the Bitcoin group coming up tomorrow. Hopefully I have time today to write something. It's probably going to be about the coronavirus. That's all we talk about now. No one else is doing anything. No one's writing anything. No one's coding or releasing anything. I mean, the closest thing we have to an announcement in the crypto world is that Kraken is still hiring, and no one knows why. All right, we got a call. Hello, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from? You're live on the World Crypto Network. Go ahead.
Hey, Thomas Christian from Morro Bay.
Hey,
And,
how's it going?
it's interesting times, of course. And I have a day off, and I'm really, I drive the transit bus here. So for the last week or so, I've been wearing mask and gloves. And ridership is down. It's limited to essential needs only. But I still kind of feel on one hand, on the fear side of things that, I'm in jeopardy. I did mention hazard pay to my boss, and she said no hazard pay. So as this thing gets more and more serious on the local level, local government level, there's been, more precautions. I got a letter to actually go to work if somebody were to pull me over or whatever. And so anyway, leading up to, I have a decision to make. Do I self-quarantine and take an unpaid furlough, which has been offered to me, which saves the company that I work for money, but I'm unpaid. I just paid rent. Is this UBI or this bill from Congress going to come through? And if it does, will I receive any monies in the near future? So I've got some balls up in the air. I'm trying to weigh good reason, thought, and take care of myself and not endanger others. And I like the idea of quarantine. As difficult as it may be, there's ways to stay connected. I've been doing a lot of Zoom meetings with people. If I could work from home, that would be fantastic. I'm trying to find ways to do that, either through YouTube or Rockfin, which is another platform. So I still haven't decided, though. I'm scheduled to work again tomorrow. I'm wondering if I should just make the call to the general manager today and say, hey, look, I'm going to take that furlough. I'm going to bite the bullet and stay in. I feel good. Yeah. Anyway,
I mean, we're definitely not going to take responsibility for your choices. You have to make your own choice. But just looking at it, logically, did they provide you with any protective equipment like a mask to wear every day? Or did they say you should wear gloves? Let's start there.
I've provided my own. In fact, I was doing it way before the other drivers and even the general manager were doing it. So now they're providing gloves and they've ordered masks. So I'm using the 3M 95N mask, and but I've only got 2 left, and I've been milking the one I'm using. Using alcohol and prepping it and all that stuff. So yes and no. They're starting to get a little more better with supplying gloves. And we have all kinds of wipes and spray down and I spend all my time cleaning up what what's going on in the bus, and not a lot is going on in the bus. I had in 6.5 hours, five riders all day, and they were doing shopping and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a weird thing. It's an essential service, public transportation. No more joyriding, no more sightseeing. So, and I still, on one hand, feel like I'm, on a suicide mission here. On the other hand, I got to keep earning money. Don't have a lot of backup. I got my little Bitcoin savings, not much there, but I got rent paid, and I've got maybe 2 months of food. So I'm thinking like maybe just call her up and say, hey, I'm going to take 2 months off and see what happens.
Well, so, the other question we got to go here is, what age group?
Sure.
And, do you have any health conditions? Like, you don't have to tell me personally, but just in general, what are we looking at?
Yeah. Okay. Age 58, and I'm in good shape and not sick, not coughing and, no cold or anything like that, knock on wood. And want to keep that going too. So, I don't want to spread anything.
I mean, I'm leaning pretty much towards staying home there. Just based on the age, it just scares me, man. It just like I'm younger, obviously. But even then, I'm afraid of this thing. I don't want this thing. I don't like being sick anyway. Really, if we have the choice. And reading the descriptions of someone stomping on your chest and losing your sense of taste and smell, being in a little isolated hospital room, no one to talk to pretty much ever. Right. I don't know if they let you have a book. Maybe there's a TV. It's not a great situation. So I want to avoid that at all costs. It's unfortunate that the economic situation, I'm not seeing a lot of wins there. A lot of the things they're giving people are for being unemployed. So because you have more of like an essential job, you're not unemployed, you haven't been fired, you haven't been laid off. The furlough thing might help you get your job back in a few months, but won't help you at all during the few months off. So that's a bit of a tight spot. Not sure how to get out of that at all. I think it's unlikely that you'd get government money if you're not laid off or unemployed, which again is just it's disappointing, and it's a misunderstanding of this whole crisis. I mean, going back to Andrew Yang, I'm sure I'm crazy lefty liberal or whatever, but he was going to give the money to everybody. It just seemed more simple. It seemed more fair. Sure, if you got lots of money, you get an extra $1,200 a month or whatever. You don't even care. You burn it on a watch or whatever, give it to charity. But for everybody, I mean, there's just so many people that, they don't have jobs, or maybe they make crafts, or maybe they, write papers, or, there's all kinds of little gig economy right now. Like, what if you drove for Uber? Are you unemployed? Not really, but you're certainly not driving any Uber rides today. So I just really think they should have given the money to everybody. It would have chilled everybody out. They would have went out and bought things. Would have been good for the economy. We go back and forth on how much money is printed and so on and so forth, but we seem to have no problem printing for Boeing. So I think you're in a tough spot. You got to make up your own decision. Looking at the chat, pretty sure the chat is on the stay home side. Everybody in the chat, go ahead and vote. Are you going to vote for staying home or keeping going with it? I'm scrolling back. They're talking about quite a lot of other things. But maybe we'll get some votes in the chat. I'm on the stay home, but I don't know. There's another part of it where you're not just on a suicide mission, that you're helping people. Like, you're out there helping the lady get to work, so she can, get the food at the food from the, grocery store and go back home. I mean, there's not that many people there. Like, your risk of infection is pretty low. I guess in a perfect world,
right,
if we had enough masks, and we don't, and obviously you don't have an extra box or anything, but imagine if they could just give a mask to every person that got on your bus. I mean, that'd be great for you, great for them. Not that expensive in normal times. If they gave masks, even if they gave gloves to the people on the bus, if they were wearing them anyway. So I think that's a tough one. Everyone says, let's see, Nova Painter says stay home. Jennifer votes for home. Let's see. So we're seeing some homes in there. In general, I think, I wouldn't try to make this decision all at once. Maybe if you could take a 24-hour break, say, hey, can I have the day off? I'm kind of stressing about this. Maybe you could decide tomorrow and have today to think about it. That might be a good idea too, just to have that. So I don't know. Nobody knows. We kind of make our own decisions. Even if you did get sick, it's probably at least a 1 in 10 or less chance that you die, even then. So it's like Russian roulette times 2. It's not great, but it's not 100%. It's not 90%. Dan Trev is pretty strong on it, though. He says no one should be working, especially public transportation workers. He does. Right. His father is allegedly an expert at the National Institute of Health, so he's worried about this thing. Think we should all just hunker down, stay at home, eat our canned food. So it's a tough decision. I hope we helped a little. What are you thinking now?
You did. Yeah, I like the input. I'm running it by a lot of people, and so yeah, I'm not going to decide today, but I'm definitely thinking about it a lot and weighing all the options and stuff. And it's just a crappy time. Thank you, Thomas, for having the show. I think it's a good service, and takes a lot of guts to do that right now, especially with Crypto Raptor. Love that guy. He's kind of funny, antagonist.
Yeah.
But yeah. So keep doing it, man. I'll try to send you some Bitcoin, and have a great day. Thank you for your input. I appreciate that.
Well,
Cheers.
Thanks so much, man. Just stay safe and take the time to make a good decision. So.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. And you can call us now on 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. Share your story, ask a question, talk about Bitcoin, whatever you're feeling. We'll try to keep the show going 5 or 10 more minutes here if we can get some more phone calls. We are approaching about the 2-hour mark. Generally, the goal for the show is 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So pretty good. Going back to the chat, Dan says his father's on the NIH board of directors and is an epidemics intelligence agent. So sounds super legit. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas. It's Sebastian again from Amsterdam.
Hey, Sebastian. How's it going?
I'm doing well. I just, I got back from work. So a little bit of a risk over there, but I think it's not that much because we are only with like 8 people, and it's like a really big space. And for the rest, I'll stay completely isolated. I don't visit my family, no friends. I only go to the supermarket like once every 5 days. So yeah. My work is basically my family now.
So, what kind of work do you do? Do you have gloves and a mask? Are you wearing them?
I don't have a mask, but I often wear gloves. It's like production work most of the time. I build turbochargers, so we have to work clean anyway. So, that's it. And we all are like. Everyone has to wash their hands like 5 times a day at least, and we work like really as separate as possible, and those kind of stuff.
Well, that sounds pretty good. I've heard a lot of people who have jobs where they already wear like a clean suit. They work in a clean room.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, well, I never see or breathe with anybody anyway. So you just have to worry a little bit on the way home and the way there. Maybe, you know.
Yeah, I go by car, so no public transport. So that there's also no risk over there, so that's fine.
That sounds pretty good. I mean, compared to the other guy, I think you have a much straightforward situation and a good reason to keep working. And how's the situation going on there in the Netherlands? I saw a couple days ago they were closing up. Everyone was stocking up at the cannabis shops and things, and and now it's on, right? You're locked down like everybody else, right?
Yeah, the prime minister called it a smart lockdown. And what he meant with that is everyone should go to work if it's possible, and like only if it doesn't endanger people, and or stay at home and work at home for the most part. And if you go outside, stay without how do you say it? Do a maximum of 1.5 meter distance in between people. So no group meetings, also not outside, and they enforced. They can now enforce like fines. Like if you stay too close to each other, you can get a fine from like 400 euros. So that's a thing.
Wow, so that's crazy and big changes.
Yeah.
I definitely.
Actually,
I like the idea of a smart lockdown. I would expect it from the Netherlands. I'm kind of a big fan of their government. They do a great job trying to control the sea and seem very reasonable and very people focused with their government. Yeah.
I have to say though, they were a little bit. They're doing it right now, but in my opinion, they were like 2 weeks too late, because Germany was already up to it, already taking their measures, and the Netherlands were like, oh no, we're fine. When it's here, we'll act. And that's just, I was arguing with my boss about this, and he said, but we cannot lock down the entire country. We cannot stop doing everything we do. That will hurt the economy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, but if you don't act now, the virus will force you to stop the economy. So it will happen anyway. And if you do it early, you can do it at your own pace. And now we are kind of forced to it. So I was a little bit angry with my boss there.
Well, it's tough. I know a lot of us saw this coming. We were reading about it. I remember when it was just a new form of pneumonia, and it was a fascinating science article, and then it was a Chinese problem, and then it was kind of a Chinese totalitarian government problem, and then now it's everybody's problem. So it has changed quite a lot in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, when it was only in China, I said already to like all my friends and family, if it pops up over here with only one person, it's gonna spread like a wildfire, way more than China. I said it back then already, and I hate it when I'm right.
I know. We can never be right about good things. It's always bad things like Trump winning or whatever. You know, it's always your worst fears then come true. Then we had a question in the chat here. It's scrolling a little fast. Martin says, do you have any idea what's up with the deaths in the Netherlands? The mortality versus cured numbers is off the charts there. Do you think maybe it's an older population, something like that?
Ooh, the older people are dying the most of it, but that's everywhere. I'm not so sure. I think it's the ratio of tested people and dying people. Like, I don't know how much they test. I've heard that they have to keep the minimum of testing down because the tests were running out, so they had to like
to ration them. Yeah, they have to save the tests.
They have to ration the test and wait for new ones. So in a couple of days, you will see the tested amount. You will see it rising, the percentage, and right now it's relatively low. So that's why I also think the tested cases is not like a really good indicator of how serious the situation is. The only real indicator is the amount of people dying, I guess. That's
I agree. It's also a question of how you're well, for lack of a better words. Well, and with the elderly population, I think it's a question of where the elderly population live. Like in China, I think most elderly people live at home with their families, so they had a huge problem with community infection and community spread, where people were spreading it to their family. Maybe in Italy, they have the old people in old folks' homes, which could lead to a huge problem of spreading. What is it like in Amsterdam or in the Netherlands? Do most people live with their families when they're older, or do they go to a home? Or
they usually go to a home. As long as they stay healthy, they stay at their own home. But if health gets worse, then they get to an older people home. But my grandpa, for example, he's 88 years old and he still lives on his own, and he's still pretty healthy. And he's also really well prepared for this. Every time there is a normal flu, he says okay, I'm going in my submarine and I'm gonna go away for 3 weeks. See you later. And he already saw this coming as well, and he stacked up food for a month at least. And he's walking around the home and doing exercises with the soup cans, which are quite heavy. He does exercise and breathing exercises and stuff like that. And he does it really well. I think I really respect that from him. So that's nice.
Well, that's fantastic. That's good to have at least one story about a member of the older generation who's taking care of himself and is prepared. And even with the normal flu, that he would just stay home and have that option. That's a great way to go.
He is already used to it. So this is almost a routine for him. So, okay, here we go again. I'm going in my submarine. He says it like this: I'm going into my submarine. It's a routine for him.
That's great. I've also heard in the Netherlands that they give older people these little gardens, pensions, and they can go down there and have a little garden and a little house and stuff. It's a great idea. I don't know how widespread it is, but I think it's cool.
That's you've got the older people home. That's if they need more care, and if they only need care every once in a while, they go to this what you said, pensions.
Yeah. I think that'd be great. You could just tend your garden, like Voltaire said.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Sebastian, for the call. Give us a call anytime.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
All right. And you can give us a call. We've still got a couple minutes left in the show. We'll keep it going as long as there's phone calls. I don't really have any news or anything left to talk about. But thanks to Sebastian for the call. It's neat to hear what's going on in other countries. Helps people understand just what a big world it is, and everything's different, but also slightly the same, right? They were still going out to get supplies there, maybe different supplies. It was interesting to see what it did to the chat. I was keeping an eye in the corner of my eye. The chat seemed talking about something Amsterdam related there for a while. But you can give us a call now at 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network, keeping the phone lines open. Let's see. Oh, no, they say Dan Trev has some very scary news, and Martin wants to hear it. I don't know if we want more scary news from Dan. I believe most of the things he said so far, and so on and so forth. But I imagine if he's got some real scary news, you wouldn't want to hear it. So I'm going to stick with that. But it's probably something like people don't wash their hands, which we already knew, and it's only getting worse. I've definitely been working on my own hand washings, definitely since I watched that great video with the surgeon and him using the ink and crossing over and doing his nails and all the special kind of ways you're supposed to wash your hands. I'm focused on that now myself. I don't know what it's going to do for me, but I want to wash my hands as good as a surgeon. So Dan says he's worried about massive die-offs at farms. I don't know if that's animals or bees. I was definitely worried about the bee problem for a long time. That was no good. But keeping an eye on it, checking out the stories one more time. The price of Bitcoin is down just a little bit, about half a point right now, 0.44% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 6,671, a high of 6,794, and a low of 6,578. Interesting Darth Maul candle there, a big up and a big down not too long ago, just this morning around 6:30. That's $1 for 15,036 Satoshis, just on the other side of the 15,000 Satoshi barrier. The money printer's going so hardcore. Oh, I see. You don't even get the graphs. There's the graphics. There you go. The money printer's going so hardcore. Oh, it's shaking the screen. It's everywhere. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 4% in the last 24 hours with a last of 22,067, well over the previous close of 21,200. Coronavirus cases continue to spread in the world. If we do a refresh, we're over 500,000 coronavirus cases worldwide, 510,646, with 23,079 deaths. These are just reported numbers so far from worldometers.com. Everyone should stay the F home. It's not fun. It's not exciting. It's getting a little boring. But we need to stay home. It's like the Dustin Hoffman movie Outbreak or Contagion or whatever. You need to stay home. And you need to wear a mask. If you don't have a mask, you should make a mask or buy a mask or borrow a mask. Somehow get a mask, wear a scarf, tear up a t-shirt, wear it around your face. Anything's better than nothing. Even that guy who was breathing through his Nike Air Max shoe probably had a better chance of less microbes in his mouth. So thanks to everybody for liking this show. We still have 42 people watching, and we had 34 people like it. Remember, you can even like the show later on if you're watching the replay. It always helps to like. And please like the other YouTube videos that you watch. Don't just like this one. Spread those likes around. We checked out cases in the United States. New York had an incredible amount of cases overnight, almost 4,300. We can say these are likely not all new cases in New York. These are likely because of the increased testing that we're seeing increased numbers. Remember, we don't have the best testing. We don't have the best numbers. This is the enemy. It's the coronavirus. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name's Kyle. I'm calling from Colorado.
All right, Kyle, what's on your mind today about Bitcoin or the virus or anything?
I wanted to know what your thoughts on how the virus was going to affect the economics behind crypto. And I also wanted to know how much dick do you suck?
Well, the economics behind crypto, I mean, it's still there. It's still a potential safe haven. People could move their money into Bitcoin if they didn't want to be in the stock market, if they're afraid of hyperinflation. Hyperinflation, as we know, is caused by the printing of money. So it seems like we're printing quite a lot of money right now. So if you had the chance to buy Bitcoin or something like it that wasn't linked to the stock market, gold or silver or Bitcoin, the theory would be that they would act differently than the stock market because they're not being constantly printed. So check it out right here. Let's see. What if we got his phone number? We can just call him back. I don't know if I'll look at that, but yeah, we do get your phone number too. That's caller ID. But anyway, you can call now if you'd like at 1-518-600-1949 or at World Crypto Network, all one word. We'll try to keep the phone lines open just a little bit longer. The Bitcoin hash rate dropped almost 45% since the peak. That's not good. Oh, it's another phone call. This might be the end of phone calls. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
You suck, yeah, Greg.
All right. So much for that. And the end of phone calls. So the Bitcoin price may be facing a death cross that suggests no 10K Bitcoin before May. Bummer. And the stimulus is not boosting the economy enough, although today it did go up about 5%. Bitcoin dominance to rise above 90%. There's no demand for altcoins. That's not good. We checked out the news. We talked about safety. It's according to a model, half of the UK population allegedly may have the coronavirus already, according to the Oxford model. When will the last Bitcoin be mined? 2120, something like that. But thanks so much to everybody for calling, even the fun calls. No problem there. Just got to be more creative. We're looking for more for you. So it's neat. They do have one of those things that bounces them around, makes it look like a phone call from somewhere else. That's pretty cool. But thanks so much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow with another show. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. Subscribe down below. And until next time,
there is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Bye-bye.